and fewer Americans today remember what it was like to be united in brotherhood to fight a battle against evil. No vague slogans or mysterious agendas clouded our resolve. The young people knew they were the ones to fight and volunteered to become the greatest American generation. The following interviews conducted by Loyal Frisbee document the lives of our hometown heroes, the ones who left our small town to protect and empower our country, and the ones who brought their strength home to our community to make Bartow what it is today.
If you have lived in Bartow for 58 years or so, the chances are very good that you were delivered by Dr. Paul E. Corey, or that your children were delivered by Dr. Corey, or perhaps both. Dr. Corey was one of those rare soldiers who served his country in both World War II and in the Korean War. He has lived in Bartow for 58 years, coming here initially to work at Polk General Hospital. Paul, like many young men of that era, you were in college during World War II and you decided to leave college to serve your country in uniform. Tell us about how you ended up in service in World War II and then again in the Korean War.
Well, Estelle, I was a senior in high school when the war first broke out, Pearl Harbor, and I had a scholarship to college and became a pre-med student. After 1 year of college, every young man wanted to be in service then. And my buddy and I decided, well, we weren't going to wait to be drafted, we were going to enlist. We went to Pittsburgh and enlisted in the Army and got our orders, and I was sent to Camp Robinson, Arkansas for basic training. I was sent as a medic, I assume because I was a pre-med student, so they were going to send me to a medical facility. And after basic training at Camp Robinson, Arkansas, I was sent to Crowell, C-R-I-L-E, Crowell Army Hospital in Cleveland, Ohio, where we were treated wounded soldiers coming back from Europe. I was there for a while, for several years, and then, or a couple years, and then went to Camp Crowell in Missouri. I worked in the Army hospital there. Then we were sent out in the field for bivouac training as medics, because back then medics did not carry firearms. We were trained to go overseas, and I was being sent to the Philippines. And I'll never forget, the ship I went over on was a 10,000-ton Liberty ship called the Marine Tiger. Back there, all the women back home were building ships called Liberty ships. They were 10,000-ton ships. Well, when I was young and up to World War II, women were homemakers. Very few women worked outside of home. They were the mothers of our children. They were the ones who supported their husbands who worked. But as soon as the war broke out and we started calling men in the service between the ages of 25 and 42 were called up for service. And these were men who worked in factories and mines and so forth. They were gone, so the women had to take their place. And women went to work immediately and worked as hard or harder than we did as men. And they were the ones that were help building ships and help building tanks and cars. And I've always felt that we get all the credit for being the greatest generation of men, but we also got to call them the greatest generation of women too, because they're the ones who really backed us up.
The era of Rosie the Riveter.
Yeah, Rosie the Riveter, yeah.
Paul Corey, my friend, thank you so much for your service.
You're quite welcome, sir.
Freddie Wright served her nation in World War II as a nurse in the United States Navy, treating first sailors and later Marines. She also met a man who had become a very special man in her life for the next 66 years and continuing to this day.
Well, of course, the war was busy and everybody was interested in the war. And we had the Red Cross come by and recruit student nurses in our senior year. They actually were recruiting for the Army, but I didn't want to be the Army, so I signed up for the Navy. And they turned my name in to the Navy. I served first in Virginia at the Naval Hospital there in Portsmouth for 9 months. And well, actually I served a month, and then I got the measles and was in the hospital for a week. Then they put me on the maternity ward. And I was not very happy because I had signed up to treat the servicemen because of the war, and here I am treating women and babies. But anyway, that just lasted a while. That day I happened to be able to be off, and I signed up to go aboard a submarine because I'd never been on one. I had visited other ships, but not a submarine. So went out for the day and met Hugh on that ship.
And it was like at first sight.
Well, we saw each other a few times after that.
You touched on one of the biggest differences between women in the war in World War II and women in the services today. Today, women are accepted in virtually all positions.
Yes,
What would you say to a young woman who came to you and said, Freddie, I'm thinking about making a career in the military? What would be your advice to her?
Well, I don't know. I'm old-fashioned, you know. I'm from way back. I would say don't do it, but that's the choice of the other person. And things are different nowadays than they were then.
So,
I really did enjoy it. I felt like it was well worthwhile.
so you served for nearly 4 years as a nurse, and then after the war was over, you brought home a souvenir from a submarine named Hugh.
Yes, right.
Freddie, thank you so much for your service to this nation, and thank you for visiting with us.
Thank you.
Carl Locke is best known in Bartow as the founder of Simcoe Construction. He is also a combat veteran of the Korean War, sometimes called the war that America forgot. He is not forgotten, nor have any of the other men who fought in that war. Carl is 80 years old, still quite active in business, and he is going to share some of his recollections of the Korean War with us. Carl, what year did you enter the Korean War?
1952.
1952, and you were in the service for the better part of 2 years.
Yes.
And you were in the Army, which branch of service were you
I was
in?
in the military police.
As we look back in history, we know that World War II was considered by the American public and the soldiers who fought it as the right thing to be doing. At the other end, we have the tragedy of Vietnam, where there was not the national consensus, and the consensus most important of American leadership to see our troops through to victory. Where does Korea come in that continuum?
Well, actually, to my recollection, it was really not discussed. I mean, it wasn't like I got to be here for the country, or I don't like the war, or whatever. It was just a duty that you done, and it was really just something you done, and really didn't question it. Right?
You are known not to be a boastful man, but you've agreed to tell us the conditions under which you were awarded the Bronze Star.
Well, I'm not really sure, to be honest with you. I think it was probably, like I say, the last big push of the Chinese that we got cut off. We was moving the Korean division into a blocking position to stop them, and it was raining, and we got cut off from everybody else, and we was there like 3 days, and it was our commanding officer got sick. He got real sick, and we were just, we didn't have no tents or nothing. We was just out on the ground, and we couldn't get the Korean. It was a new Korean division that just been activated, and we couldn't get them to do what we asked them to. And I went and woke up the commanding general to have him to tell his officers to follow our instructions, the military police instructions, because we was trying to move them and they wouldn't move.
You woke up the Korean general to
Right.
have him get his folks in here.
Right.
I understand why you were awarded the Bronze Star Medal for that. I doubt there are many American soldiers
Well,
that
not,
can claim to have done
not a
that.
corporal anyway.
Not a corporal.
No.
Okay. Carl Locke, my friend, thank you so much for your service.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Merrill was as bright as a new dime. I spent some time with him there where the fight was going on. Whatever the hell he was doing there in the foxhole, I'll never understand. All of a sudden, one of my men said, geez, look out, Lieutenant, here comes a bunch more of them. Well, I said, where? I didn't see anybody. He said, well, he's right there pointing the gun at you. Anyway, I finally spotted this guy. Turned out he was the company commander of that whole unit. This guy wanted to get killed so he could die in combat and his soul would go to heaven. Their heaven. I guess it's the same as ours. We satisfied that part of his problem. If he had to stand there and debate whether to shoot me or not, once he found out I was the leader, that's what they do, they kill the leaders. I kept going on the trail. I was looking for the 1st Battalion. They had suffered incredible damages. The whole Jap army had them surrounded. And every time they poked their head up, they'd either turn a machine gun loose or a cannon. They had a cannon trained right on them in the last engagement. Well, I found them, and boy, did they smell bad. Wow. They killed all the horses, and they couldn't even bury the bodies. The Japs tore themselves, and of course they were all rotten. And the place was just black with flies. God, you could hear those flies roaring. Seemed like a mile away. I kept hollering, "Don't shoot, Americans, Americans, don't shoot." and they were all waiting. I had them all alarmed. And they had their guns all cranked up and ready to go. I thought it was a Jap, trying to make headway and then blow them away. When they finally got me in sight, they saw I was an American. Because I was yelling my head off. I knew I was right on top of them.
Well, Steve, you've served your country in a spectacular fashion, and I'm truly proud to call you my friend. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Bill McCraney is one of the most highly decorated veterans living in Bartow. He was awarded the Distinguished Service Cross for actions in the Korean War. The Distinguished Cross, or DSC, ranked second only to the Medal of Honor. Bill has agreed to tell us about the activities in Korea in which he and 2 other members of his unit all won the Distinguished Service Cross. Bill, tell us about it.
When we started up the hill, you would take maybe 3 steps forward and slide back 1, and it was just miserable. And we lost about 6 or 7 men during the attack, and 3 of us, there was about 34 Purple Hearts awarded that day, and 3 Distinguished Service Crosses were awarded that day. And Paul E. Clausen, my platoon leader, he was trying to save some of his other soldiers. They had an outcrop of rocks, and they were all, most of them was around behind those rocks, and he would go out in direct fire and pick up wounded and bring them back to the rocks. I was in position to knock out that machine gun when he got hit, and if he'd have waited just another 10 more minutes, I would have taken care of that machine gun emplacement. But I'm still shaky, but talking about it. But it went on, and it took us about 3 hours to take that hill, and we lost, like I said, about every few minutes somebody was hollering for a medic because they started throwing grenades. I mean, just like raining grenades. In fact, when I got to that machine gun emplacement, they had, I threw a couple of grenades in on them, and it killed the Chinese that was in there at the time. But when I got in there, I started looking around to see what was behind that machine gun. And all I could see was Chinese, I mean, just everywhere. And I looked at my little M1, and you know what an M1 is. It's an 8-shot semi-automatic. And I thought, this is just gonna make them mad, you know? So I said, well, let me see about this machine gun. So it was still in good shape. So I was trying to pick it up, but it was heavy. It was a heavy machine gun. And I tried to put it around on the side where I could fire at the Chinese over there. And all of a sudden they spotted me, and they threw about 5 grenades at one time, just come through the air. 2 of them went down in where I was, and one of them went up on the top of the embankment there. And I thought, I've got to get the hell out of here right now. So I jumped up, and the machine gun fell back into the emplacement there. And I just balled up in a ball, just trying to keep from being hurt. And I got shrapnel all in my leg here. And of course, my rifle was down in the emplacement too, and it got killed. I mean, it just shattered that M1. But so then I jumped out of that, and I was so, I mean, disoriented. You know, I just didn't know which way I was going. Everything was just, my ears were exploding, you know. So I got out and I ran back down to my squad, and I called for the BAR man, and he had already been wounded. And I said, well, where in the heck is the BAR? So they said, well, it's over there. And I said, go get it. So they brought it back to me, because I was a squad leader at the time, that's all. I was 19 years old now, a squad leader. But anyhow, and they brought it to me, and so I got that BAR, which I had handled before, so I knew what it was for. And I took the clip out, put it down, because I didn't know how many rounds were left in it. Got a fresh magazine, and then another one I put inside of my, couple inside of my fatigue jacket. And I went back up again. And this time I had a little bit more firepower with me than that there was. So I pretty well wiped out a few more holes of Chinese, and it was just rough, you know. And when, if you read that when we started back down, I found one of my squad members hurt, and he said he had a chest wound. And I thought, God, I don't know what to do with a chest wound, you know. If he had a bullet hole or shrapnel or something, I could help him, but not a chest wound. So I picked him up. Now this guy weighed 140 pounds when I was there. I was a skinny little runt. And this guy was about 6 foot, and he weighed about 190 pounds. So I put him on my back and started down the hill, and we went tumbling down, you know, just slipping and falling and everything, and got down close to about 100 yards from the base of the hill where the aid station was set up. And I told him I couldn't carry him anymore. I was just exhausted, and blood had already gone down into my boot, and it was coming out the side of my boot. It was full of blood. And so I told him, I said, let me check your chest wound. So I looked in there and opened up his fatigues, you know, and looked in, and surprisingly, there was no blood, nothing. And I said, let me look in there. And so I opened him up, and he had a piece of shrapnel right on his nipple, just about. And that's where, and it just burned right where it hit. And it probably knocked him out of knocked the wind out of him, you know. So he said, I told him, I said, you big son of a gun, I said, you're gonna have to carry me the rest of the way. So we stumbled down and finally got to the aid station. But that was the worst thing. But I was over there for 13 months in Korea, and there was 10 campaigns fought in Korea, and I fought in 6 of them. But when we started off, I stepped in a daggum foxhole now. And when I did, I hit just like this, you know, with my stomach, and just lit up and knocked all the wind out of me. And you know how, you know how that feels. So, and I thought, God, I'm going to get killed right here. And not by anything but being stupid, you know. But yeah, that was the worst time I've ever had, really.
Well, Bill McCraney, thank you for your service to our country, my friend.
Okay, appreciate it. That's a
Bruce Tyndall served in World War II in the Navy, served on an attack transport ship, one of only 3 of its type in the service. Bruce, tell us about the ship that you served on and some of the missions that it performed.
Radar at that time was highly unknown to most of the Navy, well, most of the world. And I know, again, I started out as a gunnery officer. And from CIC, Combat Information Center, we got the word there's a ship straight ahead, and you better change course to so-and-so or you're going to hit him. Captain, being a graduate of Annapolis about 1927, said, I don't see anything, keep her going. The report came in again. And that time, the forward lookup up forward on our ship dead ahead. He just saw the water line right next to, just immediately above the fog. And it was stopped, a tanker. So the captain took immediate action. That made a Christian out of him about radar. Case of Hurricane, which I was in one with it, beautiful running ship. We took a lot of spray aboard, but no solid water. We slowed down to about 18 knots with a full load of troops going into Korea. So, yeah, it was a well-built ship, never gave any problems.
Is there one experience that stands out in your naval service above all others?
No, it was just all good duty. Perfect for a single guy, but not a married.
Well, Bruce Tyndall, thank you for your service. Thank you for sharing your stories with us.
Righto, thank you. 'Tis a pleasure.
To his parents, he was Charles W. McCall, but when he went into service in World War II, the Army sort of shortened that to Mac, and everybody knows him today as Mac McCall. Mac was a combat infantryman in the 106th Infantry Division at the Battle of the Bulge. In the height of that battle, fought in 40-degree below zero weather. He also has the unenviable distinction of having been taken prisoner of war during the Battle of the Bulge and was held in a PW camp by the Germans for 4.5 months.
It was some kind of a stream of water, and it was revenge, and we was fixing to cross it, and he tried to get a soldier to go on across to the head of everybody else, and he refused to go. So the captain, he said that he would walk out there, so which he did, and he got machine gun fire, but in doing so he hit the water and it didn't kill him. At that point we got captured. They marched us to I can't remember exactly where it was at, but anyway, they loaded us in boxcars at the Hall Cattle Land. And they put, I think it was 60 prisoners to a boxcar. And they were small boxcars. And the car that I was in was hit twice with machine gun fire, and but nobody was hurt, thank goodness. But the car next to us was completely destroyed with a machine gun fire and a bomb.
So this was the American Air Force then bombing a German railroad yard, but one in which American PWs were being held, which obviously the pilots had no way of knowing.
No, they didn't know. There wasn't no Red Cross markings on them or anything.
And then from there you were taken to this Stalag 9B, I believe.
Right. Well, we had bunk beds, homemade out of wood, and they only had straw on them to sleep on. We didn't have no cover, no heat in there, and it was cold most of the time. And we had fires all the way around the camp, inside the camp there. In the daytime, we all stood around camps and talked. And we got a slice of bread a day that had sawdust in it. And we got 1 liter of soup in your helmet, steel helmet, a day. And we got with a slice of bread in the morning time, we got a piece of cheese. Old cheese, it smelled bad. and that was the extent of it. When I got out, I weighed 92 pounds. When I went in, I weighed about 146. We heard that the shooting got real loud close by, and we kind of figured that we were going to be liberated pretty soon.
And you told me that during the 4.5 months you were there that 60 prisoners died.
Yes, sir.
Well,
we had a burial detail that I wasn't in it, but we had a burial detail that buried them outside of the prison.
and so obviously you were within a fenced area there. Tell me what, to the best that you can remember, what was going through your mind when you saw those American tanks reach that gate?
Oh man, it tickled to death. Whooping in a holler, hugging one another.
Thank you so much for your service to our country, your service and your sacrifice, and your willingness to share these memories. It gives yet another dimension of understanding of the service of our combat veterans. Thank you, my friend.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
On December 7th, 1941, Dick Pipes and some friends were sitting around an ice cream parlor enjoying an ice cream when they heard that Pearl Harbor had been bombed. They thought about it, and the next day they decided they needed to do something, so they all went and enlisted in the Army. Dick chose the Army Air Corps, which would later become the United States Air Force.
Dick, you joined the Army right after Pearl Harbor Day. What was it that attracted you to the Army Air Corps?
Well, I always liked the airplanes, and I said it had to be the Air Force. At that time, it was called the Air Corps. Shortly thereafter, went to Air Force.
Still part of the Army.
Right.
And you became a bombardier. Did you choose to be a bombardier, or did the Air Corps choose to make you a bombardier?
No, I chose that.
And you were telling me that early in your career that you attacked the oil fields that Hitler was getting petroleum from for his aircraft.
That is correct. They were in Palestine. Palestine was where they were getting all their oil from, and we had to wipe them out.
And then there were other missions where you told me that you were dropping ordnance from 50 feet. What types of targets was that?
Well, that was on B-24s, and there was only one time we did that. They were time bombs. They set so the radar wouldn't kick them off. And so we had to drop the bombs and get out of them before they exploded, so they'd blow us up. That was real dangerous. And one time I was flying sometime in Italy, in Yugoslavia, and two German planes came out of nowhere. I just happened to be in the waist of the plane. And I grabbed a 50 caliber machine gun and let them have it. Now, I don't know whether I got them, but I know one of them, the last one, had smoke coming out of it. But he flew into clouds on the other side I couldn't see. But I think I got him. I said that.
How many missions did you tell me you flew?
49.
49 missions. And then if you had been flying in another theater, you would have been sent home after 25.
That is correct. It would have been flying out of Great Britain, it would have been 25. And of course, they came out and said, well, our targets were tougher. And maybe they were, flying over Berlin. So maybe there was.
And you told me that there was a reason why after 49 missions, one mission short of the 50, which would have entitled you to be sent home as a sure enough veteran, you told me that something happened that caused them to send you home after only 49 missions. What was that?
Well, I had a piece of flak that went into my leg, my left leg, and I had to wear some crutches. And I didn't have to, but they told me to. And when I came back from the plane, I was getting off the plane with crutches, and this colonel, he was standing there, he said, what are you doing flying with a cane? I'm with the crutches. And I said, well, I had some flak in my leg. And he said, you mean to tell me that they flew you with a piece of flak in there? I said, yes, sir. He said, get ready to be home. In 15 minutes, we're going to get you out of here. And I went home.
Amen. Dick Pipes, thank you so much for your service to our nation, and thank you for sharing your memories with us today.
You're welcome.
Roundy Brown served with the United States Marine Corps in the Pacific Theater of Operations in World War II. He has some survivalist skills that served him and his fellow Marines very well. He's agreed to talk to us about it.
During that time, if you don't know, you get hungry in a week's time, I'll tell you. But I know we learned an awful lot just by watching animals. Anything that you see a bird eat, you can eat it. If a dog or an animal eats it, you can eat it. It's not poisonous. And that's some of the simple little things you learn in life. Now the Japs also had a 70mm cannon, and it was a German cannon, and they had it hid up in the mountains and in the caves, and they'd move that thing around at nighttime, and you didn't go up there and watch them do it, but they would just come out and roll the thing out, turn it around, aim it in the general direction of the Marines or the Navy or whoever it was that they wanted to throw a shell at, and then they jerk the thing back in real quick. And at that time, if you were down below and you think, well, I know where it is. So there's 4 other guys and myself, we decided we were going to get rid of that guy. And the way we did it, we got 5-gallon cans of aviation fuel, filled them full of aviation fuel, put a rope on them, and then tied sticks of dynamite on the outside of it. And then we went up there, we had some natives still helping us there on the island. And we went up there this night, and well, we started just at the time it started getting dark. The Japs and everybody had especially the guys with the cannon, they could go back in the cage and spend their night in there. So anyhow, we got up there, and we jumped over the top of the cave, and we lowered the cans down, and then got them swinging out like that, and let them go back in. And the force of those cans, there's 5 of them, went off. You could hear it all over the entire island. You would have thought there would not be a live person back in that cave. And we came back down and around and like that and went in, and there were still live Japs in there. They're not in fighting position, but they still managed to survive that horrible explosion of sticks of dynamite and gasoline to boot. You know, it's strange, guys, because the Guncho, which is a sergeant, he would tell these lower class fighting men to go through that space, let's say like that opening over there. And that's what they would do. And I don't care if you had a machine gun over here and a machine gun over there, and they would come up and they'd try to go through that opening. And they'd run right over the dead guys and the guys that fall in front of them, and they couldn't stop them. And I wondered why, and I found out that these three ranks of Japanese were all doped. They had dope cigarettes. Well, they were following orders. That's all there was to it. As long as that Guncho was there, you kill a Guncho off, they'd stop. That's the only thing. He'd be hollering, you know, attack, attack. And they'd come up there and they'd try their best to get in there. And we killed 10,000 Japs, and I'd say in about 24 hours. War is hell. I don't care where it is, who's doing the fighting. It's not a pleasant thing to be involved in. But if you're gonna, you have to be there, and you gotta protect yourself.
Well, Brownie, you did your part and more for your country. I thank you for your service, and I thank you for sharing your memories with us.
All right, I'm glad they've done it.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Semper Fi.
Semper Fi.